What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Touchdown Texas. I'm your host, Shiva Patel, and my co host here, Nick Rodriguez. It is a great time to be a Longhorn. The softball ends up winning a series, baseball sweeps Auburn, and we have the NFL draft. A lot of Longhorns are projected to be picked. But, Nick, it's draft week, man. How are you feeling?
Feeling great, man. I mean, we can get into it in a second, but baseball and softball have been great. Got the NFL draft here in a couple of days, so I'm excited to get into some of our guys.
For sure, and be sure to follow us at touchdown_Texas on our social media channel, and be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go back, watch some of our previous episodes. We have some fun off-season content that we've done in the past for both the team and also the the NFL draft. So be sure to go check it out. Well, what a busy weekend Sark and company had with the portal. We landed 3 portal commits. So let's talk about the first guy, tight end from Cal, Jack Endries. So tell me about him, Nick, and how will he fit with the Texas offense?
Well, we just talked about last week. Are we going to go after another pass-catching player? We just picked up Emmitt Mosley from Stanford, who was very young, and now we pick up this player from Cal who is going to help with the run game. He's also going to help with the passing game as well, and be a sure-handed receiver for Arch Manning. And we're really starting to lock in some of our receivers and tight ends here. We had a tight end that, obviously Gunnar Helm will be drafted, and we have another one that has a lot of promise, but he's kind of battling some injury issues right now. So this is obviously a safe move. And then once he becomes healthy, then you can have them both out there. But this is an experienced player who's definitely going to be an explosive receiver or pass catching tight end for us this season. That's going to be really, really exciting for Arch.
It really is. And I really like this guy. He was a number 1 tight end coming into the portal. He finally entered the portal because Cal has had an exodus of players just leaving, and they're in turmoil right now. But I love this player because he fits perfectly with what the offense wants to do. So reading about him, he likes to line up in the slot. He doesn't line up like a traditional tight end. And out of all his 56 targets last year, none of them went over 20 yards. So he's a guy that likes to just do the crossing routes and go over the middle, and that's how he beats the defenders. And that is important because we have some deep ball guys with Wingo and Mosley and more.
Right.
Well, that's going to open up stuff in the middle where he's matched up against a linebacker that's not as big, fast, and physical on him, and he can eat up those yards. Think about Jatavian Sanders, how he made his money during his time at UT. And this is a big pickup for us because Sark likes to play a lot of 12 personnel, which is 2 tight end sets. So we don't know who the other tight end is going to be because, like Nick said, there's been some injuries, and we have to see how it goes. But we know in the 12 personnel, this guy is going to be one of the guys that's going to be there, and he's a good run blocker as well as a pass catcher. He's smooth. He can break tackles, but he's going to beat you on the underneath route. Very excited for this pickup, and it's much needed that we finally got a tight end and the right tight end in the portal. So now let's talk about – oh, go ahead, Nick. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So now let's talk about the next addition, our next addition that we had from the transfer portal. It's a kicker. After fan favorite Bert Auburn went in the portal, we signed we signed a kicker. His name is Mason Shipley. Excuse me, wrong graphic. Mason Shipley from Texas State. How big of an addition is this? Because the kicking game was very average last year.
The kicking game was definitely a struggle last year. I mean, I think there was a few games, Georgia both times, even Ohio State, where there's an Arizona State where there's opportunities to get points on the board. Obviously, you want to end with the touchdown, but obviously that's not going to happen every drive to score a touchdown. So whether it's a punt or a field goal, it's still points or it's on a turnover. And unfortunately, Bert Auburn, as people will forget, did have some really good years with us. But then, man, he really, really struggled. And I think it's such a mental game with kickers, especially. And he's leaving the program. He's transferring, which I kind of get. And then we get a guy like Mason Shipley from Texas State, who I think is very accurate. He's really going to shore up that special teams. Will Shipley played a little bit last year, so we'll see how that all plays out. But I'm excited. I wish Auburn the best. I know a lot of people hate him and wish he was gone because he missed some big kicks. But hopefully he gets his mind right and he can kick for whatever school he goes to next. But I am pumped for Mason. It is scary when you don't have a good kicker and they're missing. And we're a little spoiled with kickers. We've had some really good kickers. So it's just such a momentum killer. When you get down to the field, end of half, into the game, or even you just whatever, and you just can't get points on the board. But I think we got a good kicker now in Mason Shipley.
It affected the way that Sark called the game a little bit because he would go for
you have to be more aggressive, 100%.
He did rather than kicking a long field goal. Exactly. So, this is going to help. So let me just read you some stats. So a note, we did get him from Texas State, but Mason Shipley started his career in 2020 at Oklahoma State University. So we did play him already. He redshirted that year, but technically he was in Austin, for that game in 2020. So let me just read you some stats. Total field goals, 15 of 19, which is 79%. So like Nick said, accurate. This is the part that I get the most excited about. Between 40 and 49 yards, he was 4 of 5, 80%. 50-plus yards, he was 2 of 3, which is great. And his long from last year, 60 yards. That was his long. That is a breath of fresh air for this Texas program. And he's coming in experience, and he's going to win the kicking job. He just needs to continue to do what he's been doing in the past. And he's going to be a huge asset for us because I feel like we could use him, especially for some game-winning kicks because he is very clutch, but also for field position wise, when we don't have to get as far in the red zone to be able to go for a field goal when we really need points. So he has a huge leg, and he's going to be a weapon for the Texas Longhorns. So now the last transfer portal candidate that we got was from Maryland. His name is Levon Johnson. He may not have the experience, having played 2 years in rotational stats, but tell me how much of a great of an addition is this for the defensive line group?
We've kind of talked about this before. Just comparing it to baseball, there's certain positions that you could always have a lot of guys of. It's running back. In baseball, you can never have too many pitchers. And then you can also never have too many defensive linemen, especially. I mean, really anybody on the defensive side of the ball. You can exchange guys a lot more than you would on the offensive side of the ball, but especially the big guys who might get a little more tired a little more easily, or if you want to throw in certain packages for certain types of play calling from the offensive side. This is great. This is another addition. I mean, like you said, he was a rotational player, but not everyone is going to be a superstar starting player. And in fact, It doesn't usually work that way. Even in the NFL, you need some glue guys. And what I like about some of the transfers we've gotten and with some of the recruiting we've done over the last year or two, you have superstars, clearly, Anthony Simmons, Colin Hill. But then you also have glue guys. And this is clearly a glue guy. He's coming from Maryland, Big Ten football. He's going to be a rotational piece. He's going to be big for us. And, if injuries happen, who knows? But you need guys because injuries do happen, and everyone will get a chance. So that's just how football works, especially with those bigger guys. They get tired, especially when there's a lot of running involved. So this is another good move by Sark and company.
Oh, I like this move. So again, Texas fans, he is a depth piece. He played 2 years at Maryland, so he has 2 years remaining eligibility, just like Harold Canoe did. So I love that. So he's going to be with the program for multiple years, Nick, which is really good to see. And he had some decent stats last year. He was more of a rotational piece after redshirting in 2023. And the stats may not jump out to you, but he's a depth piece because he is going to get the 5th most snaps out of our defensive line. After the big four, Brevard, Shaw, January. And so I think that's going to be really important and Canoe, the Canoe's the 4th one, is going to be really important that he's ready to be able to give us some good snaps. He is big, 6'2", 311, and he has good hands and he has a good motor. It's just that how he develops under Kenny Baker, that's going to be the key for us. And I think he's going to develop. He still can work on some moves, but he's just going to be a guy that can come in, stop the run, and occasionally, if he can get pressure on the quarterback, get pressure on the quarterback. But he's an insurance piece if we have more injuries. And look for him if he stays with us for the second year with the departures that we're going to have. He may have a bigger impact in the fall of 2026 than the fall of 2025. Also, some news that I wanted to talk about too is Texas is hosting another defensive line portal player, Syracuse defensive lineman Murad Watson. He was a freshman All-American last year at Syracuse and one of the top defensive linemen in the portal. Tennessee, Ohio State, Alabama, Florida, they're all after him. But Nick, get this. He only has one visit set up so far, and that is to the University of Texas tomorrow. And they said if everything goes right on that visit, he may look to commit to the Longhorns. So this is going to be a high-impact player. Talk about adding more bodies to this room if we do land Murad Watson.
Well, clearly, I mean, and we're going to get to this in a second with the NFL draft. Clearly, over the last 2 years, that's been a strength of Texas's football team is on the defensive line. Guys are getting drafted early. Guys are getting drafted later. Guys are getting drafted this year, early and later. So there was depth over the last 2 years that was a major strength, which is why we had one of the best defenses in the country, arguably the best. Mm-hmm. But clearly it was also something that, we might be a little young here. And Sark is clearly attacking the portal and going after guys that either could be a glue guy, could be a starter, just depending on how it shakes out, insurance piece. You need all those guys to win a championship, whether it's this year or the next. And when you build a football team, you don't build it for the next 6 months. You don't build it for the next 12 months. You build it for – it's really continuing, really for the next 2 years, I think, based on how guys go, how guys might leave, things like that. So it's always recycling. Again, it's something that you can never have too many of. You can never have too many defensive linemen. It's not like a quarterback where only one sees the field at the same time.
Right.
No, it'd be massive. It'd be massive. And obviously, if he has one visit and it's to us, you would think that should be a good thing. But anything can happen, and he can get spooked, as some kids can get spooked really easily sometimes. But hopefully, he joins the squad, and it's a strength on strength. I mean, that would be a great, and that would just make flipping it. I think it would make our offensive line even better, just because that's another unit other than a couple guys that is pretty young. But going against some units every day would certainly toughen them up pretty quick, I would think.
And if we land this guy again, we're not getting ahead of ourselves yet. He still has to go to the visit, and everything still has to work out.
Right. It's looking that way.
It's looking that way, right? He would be a high impact player. Again, he was a true freshman last year, in 2024. He had 31 tackles, Nick. 12 of them were solo. He may only have the one sack, but again, he was only a freshman. In my opinion, we'll talk about more if he does commit, but I think he can be in the running for one of our better defensive tackles in the room. But again, let's just see if the name is Murad Watson. He was a freshman last year at Syracuse. He is going to be visiting the University of Texas tomorrow, but a lot of big-time programs are after him. But again, he said that him being from New Jersey, he does not know much about Texas, or he doesn't know much about football down south. So right. I think he's going to be usually players that come to a Texas visit are usually wowed because Texas rolls out the red carpet and does such a good job of presenting them the academics, the city of Austin, and the football program. So I think that he's going to be wowed coming from New Jersey, but let's see if we actually land him, and that would be huge. Well, now let's transition. It is draft week, ladies and gentlemen, and PFF, Pro Football Focus, had a mock draft this past weekend. It was Chad Reuter. He had 3 Longhorns selected in the first round. So let's go by them one by one. Matthew Golden, number 12 to the Cowboys. Nick, do you see this happening?
I definitely could. It's definitely a good spot for him. I think Matthew Golden is the perfect number 2 wide receiver on your team. Ideally, I don't think he would be the best number 1 wide receiver on a team. I think he is a really good complementary receiver, which is a really good compliment to him. And he can show off his speed, his athleticism. I mean, he can really do all kinds of stuff on the field. But if you have a guy in an ideal world for the Cowboys, hopefully Dak can stay healthy. They still need a running back. And then you have CeeDee Lamb on the other side. I think those two would really complement each other a lot. And that would help Dak out a lot. And then if you were to draft a running back later, which I'm sure they would, that would help the running game out as well. So you have two weapons on the outside. Golden is great in the middle. He's great going down the field. He's great in the red zone. He really doesn't have many weaknesses to his game. I just think he's best as a 2. And then CeeDee Lamb would obviously be the number 1 wide receiver on that team. And then they just hope that everyone stays healthy, build up the offensive line, and probably get a running back later in that draft as well. But I think Golden to Dallas, where he would slot in as easily the number 2, and you got a good tight end and Jake Ferguson as well. I think that'd be a great little setup for the Cowboys.
So before I give my thoughts about this, one other question I wanted to ask you. Do you see him as wide receiver number 1 in this draft, or do you see McMillan, the Arizona kid, going before him?
Well, I guess I'm kind of cheating a little because I guess if it's just wide receiver, I think Travis Hunter is probably my number 1 wide receiver, and he is going to go before Matthew Golden. But if it's just between Matthew Golden and the kid from Arizona, I do think Golden will go before him. I don't know a ton about the Arizona kid at all, but I just think the fit with Golden, it seems like teams are interested in him kind of in this range. So I think he'll go a little bit before Tate will from Arizona.
So McMillan, just to give everybody some context, he's a beast. He's 6'6". He's a prototypical wide receiver. Can get the jump ball. Has great size. There was question about how fast of a 40 he runs, and there were so many questions about that. Is because he never ran a 40. So that the scouts kind of questioned. They're like, well, how fast is this guy? And they also questioned his love of football, because he even said one time, he said, volleyball is my number 1 sport. Again, this was before he got into college, but he said volleyball is my number 1 sport. So some people questioned his dedication to watching film and wanting to be a great player. But he has all the skills, measurables, and tools. I think McMillan has a chance, Nick, to go at number 9 to the New Orleans Saints. I think the Saints are down to 2 options. They're either going to draft Shedeur Sanders if the Giants don't pick him at number 3, or or the Saints are going to draft him at number 9. So the Saints draft Shedeur Sanders at number 9, then McMillan will not go before Golden. Golden will go first. And I like this with the Cowboys because we always needed an opposite wide receiver from CeeDee Lamb, because watching the Cowboys games, they always the defense provided cloud coverage and bracketed towards CeeDee Lamb. And Ferguson is a good wide receiver or a good pass-catching tight end, but we need another offensive threat with Dak Prescott. And Matthew Golden, sure-handed, has a great catch radius, runs great routes. He would be perfect for the Dallas Cowboys. But if he doesn't go to the Dallas Cowboys, I could see him maybe going to Miami at 13. He can go maybe to the Seattle Seahawks, the Steelers, the Chargers, the Packers. So in the 20s. So if he doesn't go at 12, I don't think Golden will be picked up until at least the 20s, because there's more teams in that range that need more wide receivers. Well, now let's talk about the next Longhorn. That is Jahdae Barron at 14 to the Miami Dolphins. Do you see this as a fit for him?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly makes sense. I mean, they need secondary help. There's been rumors out there that the Dolphins are shopping Jalen Ramsey. It doesn't seem like he wants to be in Miami anymore. So that could be coming to an end. I know the Falcons are in conversation, or could be potentially a team that goes after Jalen Ramsey. So that would obviously open up a spot for Jahdae Barron. So whether it's Will Johnson, whether that's Jahdae Barron, this certainly makes a ton of sense for where he can go. And Jahdae is a guy who can do really anything for you on the field. He can be safety, as he did that at Texas. He can be corner. That's kind of what they ask a lot of DBs to do now, is to do all kinds of stuff and not just be a man-to-man shutdown corner. But he can truly do it all. I mean, and if the rumors are true, and it does seem like they're not getting along anymore with Jalen in Miami. So, he's been there for a little while now. So maybe they do want to move him. He is getting a little older, and then go a little younger and draft Jahdae Barron. That certainly would make a lot of sense to me.
It would. So I like the Miami pick at 13. But one team earlier that could look at him, 11, the San Francisco 49ers. They do like Will Johnson, but they could also go Jahdae Barron in the secondary because they lost some pieces from last year's team. Even though they may go an offensive lineman because they need to protect Brock Purdy. But Jahdae Barron is a Swiss
Yeah.
Army knife. He can play the star position, the nickel position. He can even go out and play corner. Great ball skills, not afraid to get in the run and make tackles, has can get interceptions, cause turnovers, and he has great technique. He's not going to get out of position. He's going to stay glued on the wide receiver. He's just a really good prospect that a lot of scouts like. It's just that where is he going to go in the draft? I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers don't take a quarterback at 21. He can go to the Steelers, maybe to the Packers at 23, Vikings, or he can
Yep.
even go to a team like the Ravens or the Lions later in the
Yep.
draft. A lot of
Like
options.
that.
Yes. But what would be the ideal spot? If you could pick one team for Jahdae Barron, you circle this is the spot where he would be the best fit. What team would that be?
Oh, that's a good question. I think Miami's on the short list, certainly, especially with the Jalen Ramsey news. I think that would make a ton of sense. Anywhere, I don't know. I like Miami. I think
That's a
Miami.
good
I
pick.
think I think Miami makes sense. I think that's about where he'll fall. I think that's where shopping Jalen Ramsey again. It's a player that wants to go somewhere else. Maybe he gets shopped to Atlanta, which would help the Falcons with their defensive back because Ramsey is still a great corner. He's just not the same guy as he was before.
Yeah.
And then you get Jahdae Barron, fresh look guy who can kind of do it all. I like him there. I do think he'd be an interesting fit with the Buffalo Bills.
Great one.
Similar kind of style that they like to play. That he can do all sorts of things. He's Swiss Army kind of guy, like Brian Branch from the Detroit Lions. He's kind of like that. I don't think the Chiefs would be interested in him. They like a guy like Ladarius Sneed, who's more of a man-to-man kind of corner. So I don't think the Chiefs would be a good fit, but maybe someone like Buffalo, where they ask you to do a lot and more zone kind of packages. But I don't know. But Miami sticks out to me. I think he would look cool in the teal and the orange. Those uniforms would be pretty sick. So maybe that's why I'm leaning Miami.
So yes, that's another important point. Zone teams may favor Jahdae rather than
Yeah.
man to man. We love Jahdae. He is a true Longhorn legend. Me and Nick have sung his praises all year, but he is not the man to man player that Will Johnson and Travis Hunter are. He's close. He's not a bad man to man player. He just may be utilized as a better zone player in the NFL. So that's something to look out for as we get closer to the NFL draft. Well, so now the last player, Texas Longhorn player that they project to go in the first round. What about this? This is a new one, Nick. Kelvin Banks to the Cardinals. Interesting fit. What are your thoughts?
I like the fit. I think it's a spot where Arizona, they have a new head coach or newest head coach. This is his third year now, where they're kind of like building up, keep missing the playoffs, but they're, rising up a little bit here and there. This would be a year where I think they need to make a push and make the playoffs. I like the fit. I do think they need offensive line help from Arizona. They like to run the ball. You have Marvin Harrison Jr., you have Kyler Murray. I don't know if he lasts this long would be my question for Arizona. I see him more like going to the Jets, maybe the Raiders if they decide not to go with the running back and go more offensive line. I don't know, maybe Jacksonville, although Jacksonville might go defense. I do like the fit. I think it makes a lot of sense. They need to make the playoffs this year, or that's at least the expectation to make the playoffs this year for Arizona, or it should be. I just don't think Banks will fall to 16. Maybe they trade up and try to get him. I just see Banks more as a 10 to, or let's say 8 to 12 kind of player. 16 seems a little too late, but who knows? Anything can happen in a weird draft where he falls. It seems like Campbell, and Mimbu maybe 1-2 and Banks is third. But I don't know. We'll see. But I do like the fit. I do think they could use an offensive lineman.
I agree with this. And before I give my thoughts, I wanted just to ask your opinion. A lot of Longhorns I've been seeing are very perplexed with this draft process where not a single game has been played since we played Ohio State in early January, but somehow Banks' stock has fallen a little bit from where it was early in the year. What are your thoughts about that, and why do you think his stock has fallen a little bit?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, he doesn't have any character concerns or playing concerns. Just an upstanding guy. I think part of it could just be this is just the NFL, and I don't know if it's his stock necessarily falling and maybe others just rising. I know Mimbu is just a guy that everyone
Mhm.
loves, and what I've kind of seen is Mimbu is like the clear number one, and Banks and Campbell are kind of debating for 2 and 3 is kind of what I've seen, but I don't know. And then again, like maybe this is just a way so he doesn't go as early as some teams want him to. We're in such a period right now where they're trying to throw the masses off. So maybe that's what it is. Clearly, to me, like you said, I mean, nothing has changed from Ohio State. He didn't get hurt. He didn't do anything stupid. So I think it's kind of the rise of some players, and then maybe the NFL is trying to hide how much they actually like Kelvin Banks and hoping that he can slide to their team, like the Arizona Cardinals. That would certainly help them if he felt the
Hey,
same.
that's a great way you ended that sentence. Actually, bringing it back to our current discussion. I think that I've seen some stuff that some scouts, which I disagree with, by the way, that said his sophomore tape was better than his junior tape. I disagree. Me and Nick watched every single snap of every single Texas game last year. And yes, we may not be watching Kelvin Banks every game, but I went back and watched the tape on a lot of different Longhorns games to watch different positions. I did not see where they saw the drop off in his film. He looked as good as he did his freshman year, his sophomore year. He's gone bigger, he's gone stronger. I think the biggest knock on him is they think because of his arm length that he is a guard rather than a tackle. And usually they don't draft guards this high, like in the top 10, compared to when they draft tackles. So that might be the only reason I think, even though the guy that's projected to go ahead of him, Will Campbell, the guy nicknamed, his arm length is less than Kelvin Banks. Arbon Membu is massive. He's 6'3", 325. I wouldn't be surprised that he is the first tackle off the board. I think he has a chance to go, maybe to the maybe to the Patriots at 4. I think that's between Campbell and Membu. And then whoever they don't draft at number 10, the next offensive lineman can go to the Chicago Bears. And then I think Kelvin Banks, I would pencil him in if I had a mock draft number 12 to the Dallas Cowboys. I think we need a player like Kelvin Banks with Travis Frederick retiring, Tyron Smith retiring. We need to shore up our offensive line because we paid Dak a lot of money and he's been injured the last couple of years. We need to keep him upright if you want any chance to get to the playoffs. So I'm going to switch it. I know we showed Golden going earlier at 12 to the Cowboys. Well, I think that Banks is going to go at number 12. And unfortunately, from the intel that I've been hearing, I think Membu goes at number 4 to the New England Patriots. And then at number 10, the Bears will draft Will Campbell. Even though the Bears, if the Raiders don't draft Genty at 6, Nick, I can see the Bears drafting him at number 10. But just to finish this offensive line discussion, do you agree with the experts that Banks is going to be the third tackle off the board behind Membu and Campbell?
At worst, he would be third. At best, he's second. I don't think he'll go to the Patriots. I've seen some people have Will Campbell go to the Patriots, even though, you're right, his size is basically the same as Kelvin Banks, if not smaller. But
Exactly.
and I thought it was a good point because maybe he's more of a Vrabel kind of guy, just that kind of mean, aggressive type. That's not that Banks and Mimbu aren't, but maybe he's just more of that style.
Mhm.
Um, which could totally. I mean, that's it's this is a $1 million or multi-million-dollar decision. So if it's a guy that is more like you or your coaching style, then yeah, that makes sense. That might give them the edge over Mimbu or a guy like Banks. I think Banks is at worst the third offensive lineman taken, with Campbell and Mimbu being ahead of him. I don't see him slipping past that. Um, but we'll see. We'll see. I also don't see him going down to 16, but it's certainly possible. And who knows? It could end up being a better, like we talked about, previously when he was mocked to go to the Dolphins. Playing with the mobile quarterback, playing with Kyler could help him as a rookie quarterbacks or rookie offensive lineman. So we'll see where exactly it goes. It's all going to shake out here in a couple of days, and we can talk about how we think their fit is once we know exactly where they go. Next week when everything has been locked in. But right now it's all up in the air and we don't know what's true right now.
Yep, it's all up in the air. It's all conjecture. It's all guessing game. We'll know fully Thursday night. I can't wait. We can finally going from projection to actually breaking down the fits of the fit of these Longhorns. And in my opinion, there could be 11 to 12 Longhorns drafted, which could beat last year's record. But we'll see what happens. We'll react to that. This is the place to be, ladies and gentlemen. Touchdown Texas. And I'll give a little shout out. Be sure to follow us on our social media channel. On Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. So now let's go to the second round now. So that is the first round. What about this? Alfred Collins at 42 to the New York Jets. What do you think about Big Alfred going to the Big Apple?
I mean, man, Aaron Glenn just got there. New head coach. He's from the Detroit Lions. They had Aiden Hutchinson. Obviously, two totally different types of players, but they're mean. They love the defensive side of the ball. The Jets are a talented team. They have a lot there. I just think you just need more depth. You need more aggression. Why not? I think Alfred Collins would fit that culture really well, especially for a guy like Aaron Glenn, who is trying to put a new face to it. Put his own spin on it. I think this would be an awesome fit for the Jets and honestly for Alfred Collins as well.
I would love this fit because Jets need defensive line help. They've traded away some of their players. They're lacking the depth of that position. Alfred Collins, the high motor player that has great hands, that can get sacks, but also stop the run. He's a versatile piece that Coach Glenn, like Nick said, is looking for, and he would contribute early, and he would be a great investment for the New York Jets. So now we cannot end this episode without talking about Quinn Ewers. We haven't talked about him in a while, Nick. So this mock draft has him going at 52 to the Seattle Seahawks. Two questions for you. Can you see him going that early? And what do you think about the Seattle fit?
I definitely can see him in that range. I mean, I think there's a number of guys after Cam Moore where it's just, it's open season. It could be anybody. Between Tyler Shuck and Jackson Dart and of course Shador and then Quinn, they're all kind of lumped together in that mix. How you see them, how you view them, your playing style, whatever. I think Seattle's a great fit for him. I think you have a guy, Sam Darnold, who would be the quarterback for this year. I'm not sure about the future, but Sam Darnold would be the quarterback. It's a great veteran. Quinn wouldn't have to play in year one, although I think he could play in year one. I think the Rams would be a better situation for him if he had to start in year one. Obviously, they have Stafford, but you know what I mean. I do like the fit. Yeah. We talked about this off air a few days ago, talking about good organizations make good moves. Seattle's a great organization, right? Even though Pete Carroll's not there anymore and they've changed hands with a new coach. Good organizations make good decisions, and this would make me feel good about Quinn and where he goes, about his future. He could sit behind Sam. You got Jackson Smith, and Jigba. They were kind of retooling that offense in their whole identity, but good organizations make good moves. I'd be happy if Quinn went to this spot. I think they would take care of him, give him a good opportunity, and then after Darnold plays 1 year, 2 years, however they feel like he needs to play there, then Quinn can take over and it'd be his team.
So I do like the Seattle fit, even though I've said on a previous episode, sometimes I'm not crazy about rookie quarterbacks going to defensive coaches, that's what McDonald, the head coach of the Seahawks, is. even though I've kind of changed my mind about that position because look at D'Amico Ryans with CJ Stroud, look at Dan Quinn with Jaden Daniels. So that position I'm not as set on as I was before. Seattle has great tight ends. They have a good receiver in Jackson Smith-Njigba. They have a great defense that's going to make it tough for you to score on. They're trying to retool to get back to that Legion of Boom defense. Great running backs with Walker and then Charbonnet from UCLA. So I like the Seattle offense, and Quinn learning under Darnold for 2 years would be perfect because Sam Darnold, I don't think he's ever going to be a long term piece anywhere because he's just sometimes too inconsistent. Even though he had a great year last year, he stunk it up in that playoff game for the Minnesota Vikings. So I like that. A couple of other spots I'm looking at. So at 33, Nick, most likely the Cleveland Browns are going to select either Tyler Shuck or Jalen Milroe because they're going to select Travis Hunter with the second overall pick. The Giants at 34, they're either going to draft, like I said, Tyler Shuck or Jalen Milroe, whoever the Browns do not land. So I think those are not contenders for Quinn. But look for the Raiders at 37. They bring Quinn in for a visit along with Ashton Genty. They really like Quinn Ewers, and most likely with the sixth pick, they're not going to take a quarterback. So that is a spot that Quinn could go to. And I wanted to get your opinion about that. How would you like his fit with Pete Carroll in the Las Vegas Raiders?
It's a good spot. It's a good spot. I just said with Seattle, good organizations make good moves. The Raiders have been, not a good organization over the last 10 years, if not more than that. But they're retooling, right? Brady's a part of the ownership group. You have a great head coach in Pete Carroll. Geno Smith is your quarterback right now, not of the future. Quinn would be the backup again for a couple of years, sit behind. Maybe you have you have Brock Bowers there as your tight end, which would be a great security blanket. Probably already the best tight end in football. If he's not, he's number 2 or number 3, depending on how you have Kelsey and all those other guys. But I think it'd be a great fit. I mean, I think the Raiders are a sneaky coming up team. They're definitely going to take a quarterback at some point. Aiden O'Connell is a good player. I think he's just more of a backup. And I don't think, he's the future of their team. So signing Geno, drafting Quinn, drafting Jackson Dart, whoever they end up going with is, I think it's a good fit. I think for the first time in a long time, the Raiders are heading in the right direction. I think it would be really good, especially if that Ashton Genty at the running back spot's another security blanket that Quinn Ewers could have to hand the ball off to, obviously, or even dump it down to. So, I think that'd be good. And then Pete Carroll, who's dealt with everything. He's been coaching for so long. He had Russell Wilson and was obviously very successful. I think that'd be a good move for him too.
Yeah, so I can see that happening. That's the more realistic option I could see if Quinn is going to go in the second round, will be 37 in the Raiders. Even though, watch out for 40 in the Saints if they do not draft a quarterback with the 9th overall pick. So I think that right now Quinn has some great options to go to. Some teams like him. They're staying under the weeds because they know he's a player that can be developed. He has all the traits. He has all the tools. He has the winning pedigree. If he just stays healthy, he can have a very productive career in the NFL. So just going on the macro level about quarterbacks, how many do you see going in the first round? I guess me and you agree that Shador and Cam Ward are going to go in the first round. So I'm really trying to ask you, do you see Dart as a first round pick?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I guess he could sneak in. I really do think it'll just be Shador and Cam Ward. I don't think anyone else really will get in. I mean, I know Jackson Dart has been in the conversation. It's possible we get up to 3. Just trying to figure out what team that would be. I mean, does Pittsburgh make that move? The tricky thing here is like Aaron Rodgers is still not signed with the team. He didn't go to the Vikings. He didn't go to the Steelers. So like if he signed with Minnesota, you could see Pittsburgh going, okay, we're out of the, Rodgers conversation. So let's go ahead and get Jackson Dart, which they could do either way, even if they had Rodgers. But I don't know. I don't know. I think it's going to be more of a Shador Cam Ward situation, and then second round will kind of fill up with a lot more quarterbacks. Seems like Jalen Milroe has been rising on a lot of boards. He's got invited to the NFL draft.
Your favorite
So
quarterback? No, I was kidding.
he maybe, I mean, hell, maybe he'll even sneak in. I mean, he did get invited, so maybe there's something that him and his agent know and feel comfortable with, that they feel like he could be in, like a Lamar. And I hate the Lamar comparison because Lamar won a Heisman, but Lamar did have to wait all night, and the Ravens jumped back in to pick him. So maybe a team does that, like a Cleveland or something like that. So anything's possible at this point. I'm betting on two, Cam and Shador, but who knows? Milroe might get in, Jackson Dart might get in, but we'll see in just a few days.
Okay, so and what do you think about some fans have been hearing a lot of Tyler Shuck hype from Louisville? What are your thoughts about him?
Well, it seems like he can do everything with the football. He can throw it. He's got great size. I don't know. I think he's more of a second round pick. You kind of went through those options before with some of the teams that would be looking for a quarterback in that range. Raiders, the Browns, Seattle. I don't see him as a first round quarterback. That's just me. I just think teams are trying to boost him up or not, boost up other guys. We're in that weird period right now where not everything that is reported is true, just because they're trying to influence other teams and stuff. So I don't know. I really don't know. I didn't watch a ton of Louisville games. I watched a few here and there, but I didn't get to watch a ton. So I don't know a lot about him. I know he's a little older, but we'll see. We'll see where he lands. And what I have read a lot of, which I don't think is hyperbole, is a lot of teams' rankings 2 through 4 on the quarterbacks are very similar. So that's why there might not be a trade for a quarterback in this draft, as opposed to Cam is obviously one. And then between Quinn, Jackson Dart, Shuck, it could be, they're so close. They might not be like, well, we have to have Shuck or we have to have Ewers. It's just, to them, it's, like, what's the difference if they're that close to each other? And I even heard Shador's in that conversation for being in that group. So Shuck has made up some ground for sure.
He has. So he's going to his 7th year. This tells you how old he is. He was in the same 2016 recruiting class as Justin Herbert. So that tells you how old he's been in college for a minute. He had stops at Oregon, Texas Tech, and Louisville. Speaking of that, I didn't watch very many Louisville games. The only game I watched was when they played Notre Dame on the road. That was a pretty good game. He had a good game, Nick. But I think 3 are for sure going to go: Cam, Shador, and Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart's either going to go 21 to the Steelers or 26 to the Rams. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns and the Giants trade into the first round, because they get the 5th-year option on the quarterback, which is cheaper than having to pay him, and they draft Shuck and Milroe. So if I had to bet, it would be 3, but I would not be surprised at 5 at all. And Quinn is going to go either the 2nd round or the 3rd round. He's going to hear his name called day 2, which will be this Friday night. Well, thank you so much for watching this episode of Touchdown Texas. We hope you enjoyed our content. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like we said, the draft is this Thursday, the first round. Rounds 2 and 3 are on Friday. Me and Nick will be back to discuss all the draft picks, specifically the Texas Longhorns, and any more transfer portal news that happens. But until then, we'll see you next time, Longhorn Nation.